Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Temple Institute Parsha class. My name is Gedalia Meyer, and I'm podcasting from Ma'ale Adumim in Israel. The phenomenon of the feel-good experience has reached almost miraculous heights in the modern world. We crave this feeling like no other, valuing it above some paltry physical sensation like food or sex, and certainly above mental stimulants such as thinking about something or even figuring something out. It has even outdistanced its emotional rivals like excitement or laughter, leaving them in the dust as relics of the bygone era when we actually had to do something to live life. Now all that is on its way out as our avenues gradually narrow down to whatever we can get from the cyber world. Hence the need for some means of actually feeling good about ourselves and that our lives are actually worthwhile. The feel-good experience can be reaped almost anywhere and anytime, but it requires certain conditions in order to be successful. First, it must be something that truly makes the recipient feel good. Faking it won't do here. It has to be genuine in order to work. While the old standbys such as giving or receiving love or friendship still remain the primary methods of getting this most treasured of feelings, there are alternatives. These alternatives may prove to be more enticing than the old standbys in the not-so-far future, since those standbys may become increasingly more inaccessible. Another old standby method from the past, actually accomplishing something of personal value, is also very much around, but it also runs the risk of irrelevance as our lives become ever more dominated by our interactions with the omnipresent presence of social media. Feel-goods are increasingly necessary in a world that allows fewer of the more natural and traditional methods of feeling worthwhile, such as surviving another day or connecting with some higher power. These used to be the bread and butter of a fulfilling life, but no longer. Surviving, for those who crave these feel-goods, is no more difficult than pushing a few buttons. Connecting with a higher power is much more far-fetched and much less accessible than connecting with the world by running one's finger across a screen. But pressing buttons and swiping screens does nothing for our need to feel worthwhile, for our inexhaustible search for meaning in life. This is why the feel-good experience has moved from the back to the front burner in much of the modern world. The feel-good has probably been with us forever in one form or another. Perhaps in the past it had come from truly getting somewhere in the battle for survival. It may have sprang from intellectual pursuits or from random acts of kindness that garnered no likes. It may have been linked to religious thoughts or rituals, or from some feat of personal accomplishment. We see evidence of such things in the Bible, though the results don't match the current definition of feel-good. The closest to the modern feel-good experience was probably in the form of one person blessing another. This intense and very biblical act was the way of conveying some sense of value and meaning to someone who needed it. This week's Parsha happens to have a good deal of these blessings. It is called Vayechi, which means he lived. This phrase introduces a verse which described how Jacob lived in Egypt for the last 17 years of his life. He had arrived there from the neighboring land of Canaan during the famine that raged for 7 years. His son Joseph had sent word through Jacob's other 11 sons that he, their long-lost brother, was alive and ruling as viceroy in Egypt in charge of administering food distribution during the famine. Jacob at first had difficulty believing this miraculous news, after having been misled by his other sons for about 20 years that Joseph was dead. But in the end, he believed what was indeed the case and came to Egypt for the reunion with the son he thought was lost to him. The Parsha gives almost no details about what happened to Jacob in those 17 years in Egypt. Instead, it focuses on two specific incidents in his subsequent life, both of which involved blessings. These two incidents take up almost the entire Parsha. The first is his discussion with Joseph about making sure that arrangements would be made in the event of his death, that he be buried in the family crypt in Hebron in Canaan. After receiving this assurance, a short time later, Joseph is called to Jacob's bedside because he is ill and near death. During this second meeting, Jacob grants Joseph and then Joseph's two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, special blessings that were not bestowed upon Jacob's other children. The blessing to Joseph imparts to him the feeling that the divine power that guided Jacob throughout his life would grant that same guidance to Ephraim and Manasseh. While this seems more like a blessing to Joseph's sons than to Joseph himself, that was frequently the way biblical blessings were given. More important than imparting some fervent wish of goodness upon the recipient was that the recipient should see their children blessed in some way. Similarly, the blessing to Ephraim and Manasseh was the classic blessing the Jewish parents give their sons. Quote, Israel will bless you, saying, may God make you as Ephraim and Manasseh. How is this a blessing to Ephraim and Manasseh if they already were Ephraim and Manasseh? The answer, perhaps, is that there is no greater blessing to a person than that they should set the example for others in the future. By bestowing upon Ephraim and Manasseh the blessing that their names and their lives will be the prototypes for future blessings that Israelites bestow upon their children, Jacob granted them a form of immortality that could only come through such classical biblical means. It was worth all the money and comfort and long life in the world. Biblical blessings are rarely of the live long and prosper variety, even though that is not unheard of. They tend to gravitate more towards the spiritual end of things, with God's guidance or light or presence being the subject of the blessing. These were the blessings that people truly hoped for in biblical times, and when granted, meant everything. So it may come as a surprise that the bulk of the rest of the Parsha, which consists of Jacob blessing all of his sons on his deathbed, includes almost nothing of the sort. Jacob tells his sons that he will tell them, quote, what will happen to them at the end of days, perhaps meaning what their destiny has in store for them. He then goes through them one by one and recites to them some poetic expression that seems to zero in on their fate in some way. Although Jacob doesn't say that he is blessing his sons with this introduction, when it is all over, the Torah describes the entire event as, quote, this is what their father said to them as he blessed them. Each one according to his blessing, he blessed them. Thus it seems that this was indeed his deathbed blessing to them, and that is certainly how it is understood in Jewish tradition. The actual blessings are somewhat surprising, to say the least. None of them are the classic, may God be with you type of thing we might expect from the Bible. The oldest son, Reuben, received a blessing which said, quote, you are my firstborn, my strength, and the beginning of my power, with more authority and more might. You are as reckless as water, so you shall not remain. For you went up on the bed of your father, then you profaned my couch. While it starts off as what we might expect, it certainly ends with a strong note of criticism. This is traditionally understood as a harsh rebuke of Reuben for some sort of sexual advance he made to his mother's maid, who was also his father's wife. The next pair, Shimon and Levi, received a similar blessing of rebuke. Quote, instruments of crime are their wares. Let me not enter into their plot. Let my glory not unite with their assembly. For they killed a man in anger and maimed a bull on purpose. Cursed be their anger, for it is mighty, and their rage, which is harsh. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. This refers to their killing of all the males in the city of Shechem, following an agreed upon circumcision after the son of the city's leader had raped their sister. The rest, admittedly, are not nearly this harsh. Some are downright praiseworthy, though even in those cases, the praise is couched in metaphor and hidden messages. Others received a somewhat mixed message, with a fairly neutral destiny appointed for them that just seems to be the way things are going to be. One is compared to a snake, though not in an entirely negative way. Another is compared to a donkey, bearing its load willingly without complaint. The youngest, Benjamin, is compared to a wolf who eats in the morning and in the evening divides his prey. Perhaps the most interesting is that of Joseph, who is described as a fruitful son who was constantly attacked but withstood it all. He eventually triumphed and would receive help from his father's God, along with the blessings of the heavens and the earth. This, along with that of Judah, were probably the most desirable of the recipients. But all of them leave us with the feeling that this was anything but a feel-good experience. Jacob was telling it like it was and not sugarcoating anything. So how are these really blessings at all? Perhaps the answer to this question takes us to the heart of what a blessing really is. It is not a feel-good experience. A blessing is when one is set on a path that is correct for them, regardless of whether it is the path that they might prefer or seems easiest or the most pleasant. By telling Reuben that he was impetuous because of what he did in the past, he was providing him with the exact message he needed to hear if he was to go about correcting the past. The same for Shimon and Levi and all the rest. This was what they needed to hear, even if it might not have been what they wanted to hear. That is really the essence of a blessing, to set a person on the correct path. We all need feel-good experiences to get through the tough times that life throws at us. We need to feel good about ourselves because otherwise we would probably dwell in misery. Sometimes we just have to pat ourselves on the back and remind ourselves that we are doing okay and deserve to be here. But that doesn't mean that we cannot use a bit of telling it like it is every once in a while. Feel-goods are great for a quick pickup, but at the end of the day, all they really do is tell us that we are okay just the way we are. A blessing, if it truly lives up to its intention, does somewhat of the opposite. It tells us where we are and where we should be going. We need both, but we shouldn't mistake the one for the other. Shabbat Shalom.